Hi, this is Sean, Lotus Luxury Pool and Spa. Thought I'd jump on here real quick and just give a little rundown on how I got started in this industry. The reason why is I have a guy that I just kind of got started into it that's been asking me for a while. So I thought there might be some other people out there that are interested. The pool business can be lucrative. Your own boss. I don't have to set an alarm. I don't have to wear a tie, which are two things that I really hate. Basically, the way I got started is I had a buddy of mine that had a big pool company. I went to work for him for a year, learned the business inside and out. Now, you don't have to know somebody. I mean, you can go get a job at Pinch a Penny or any pool company, start learning how to do pools. The problem is there's a lot of guys out there that aren't doing it properly. You want to get in with a good, reputable company and really learn to do it the right way, know what you're doing. I go out on a lot of calls where I go out to people's pools that are really messed up because somebody didn't know what they're doing. So I get those calls all the time. We go out there, resolve the issue. A lot of times end up getting the account, but since I'm pretty much full now, I usually pass it on to someone I know. Sometimes it's just do-it-yourselfers that they had a pool guy, didn't work out, and they try to do it themselves, and it's definitely not working out. But anyway, I got a job in the business, learned it for a year. I was bartending on the weekends at the time, and then I broke off, started an LLC, got the business insurance, went out on my own. I started picking up more shifts at the restaurant bar to support myself while I built up the route. Generally, a pool route is about 60 pools. So I started off, my buddy that I worked for had a couple accounts that he didn't want, so he threw me a couple to start with, but they were really far away. They were like an hour and a half from where I lived at the time. But I took them, take whatever you can get. So I took those. I met with some other pool companies, said, hey, if y'all got any pools you don't want, they're out of your area, or you're getting calls and you don't really want to take the calls because you're full, let me know. Here's my business card. I'll throw you $50 if I end up getting a deal out of it, getting a service contract out of it. So I did that. I started talking to suppliers around town where I get my supplies from, and would tell them, hey, if you know anybody that is looking to get rid of some pools or needs extra help because they don't have the manpower, whatever. I would do whatever I could to try to accumulate pools. I didn't do the Angie's List, the Thumbtack, or the Yelp route. I did do Yelp for a little while. I got a few pools out of that, but it's not really that. They're not really that good. These are what we call tire kickers. These are people that are just calling around, trying to get the best deal possible. They're generally not that good at pools. I got a few out of it, but really, I didn't really like what I was getting. And they're just shopping around, so you're going to go out there and waste your time giving them an estimate and all that stuff. Fortunately for me, I networked and made a lot of friends, and people started throwing me business. My buddy that got me into the business, he was so busy at one point that he just couldn't take any new pools and new accounts, so he was throwing me those leads, and I would go out and give him an estimate and get the account. He was also doing what's called startups. Whenever you first build a pool and you finish it, you have to do a startup on it. It takes about a month. That's where you get it just right, chemical-wise, safe to swim. There's a lot to it. You have to put a lot of acid in the pool, go out there twice a week, brush it, the wire brush. Depends on the builder, but you may have to put on the return fittings and do some other stuff. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but you can make a pretty good amount of money on it for that month's worth of work, and you usually end up getting the account because the owners get to know you and then they want to hire you. So I did that for a little to gain some more customers, and then once I got up to where I pretty much had a full route. Oh, I forgot to say, I worked all over the place in the beginning. I had accounts an hour north of me, an hour south of where I live. I was all over the place, and I worked all day long on Mondays. I woke up at 5 in the morning, started at 6, and I'd work until dark. I got to that point where I had so many pools spread out that I would work until dark. Then I split Monday off, and I would work Monday, Tuesday. And then I would build up Monday, Tuesday till I was so busy, so full on both days. and then I would split it into 3 days. And then once I got to 4 days a week, well, 3 days a week, I would cut down on my shifts at the restaurant. Then once I got to 4 days a week, I went just to weekends only at the restaurant bar. And then when I was 5 days a week, I quit the restaurant. So I had a full route. And then what I started focusing on, once I got a full route of 60 pulls, I started focusing on getting quality pulls, because a lot of those pulls I had at the time were garbage. I mean, they're old pools, they're algae prone, they weren't salt water, they had old equipment, they were in areas where there's a lot of trees, they were far away, whatever the case may be. They're by the beach. Pools by the beach suck. You get a lot of sand in them and the wind. So what I did is I started focusing on working with builders to do more startups in the areas I wanted to be in, which is where I live now, and then shave off those older pools. And I got a buddy of mine started in it, and I started giving him some of my older pools. And then I sold off a couple of routes. The way you do that is you can have a day of service, like say a full day of service is 15 pools, 15 accounts. You can use, there's different pool brokers online that you can contact, and they will help you sell that route, and they keep a percentage of it. So I've sold a couple of routes that way, put a big chunk of change in my pocket, got caught up on some bills, whatnot. Now I pretty much have 66 accounts in the area where I live within a 5-mile radius, and I can get up to 75. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I thought I'd just get on here real quick, and anyone who's interested in that. And if anyone has any questions, let me know. It's not that hard to get started, and you need about, once you want ready to pull the trigger, it's about $5,000 worth of stuff you'd have to buy. So it's really low barrier to entry. You don't need any certifications, although a certified pool operator license, I would recommend getting that. At least you have some kind of something. But all that is basically if you're going to do commercial pools, which I don't recommend doing commercial pools, because you got to go bid on the jobs against other people. They're going to lowball you, and then you're going to be on call. And if a kid poops in the pool, you got to go clean that up. Sometimes they make you clean the restrooms. You do not want to do commercial pools. Residential pools are the way to go. But there's a low barrier to entry. You don't need a lot of money to start up. And if you know what you're doing, if you pick up the phone, do what you say you're going to do good work, show up on time, or at least the day you say you're going to show up, like that's all people want. Because there's a lot of terrible pool companies out there that do not do it right, and they skimp on the products. Like, for instance, if you have a saltwater pool, you need to have salt in it, you need to have stabilizer in it. There's all these things that you need to make sure to make that pool function properly. But some of these guys, they'll go out and get liquid chlorine, which is super, super cheap. It's the cheapest form of chlorine you can get. And they'll use that instead of putting salt and stabilizer in the pool, which is what you're supposed to do for a saltwater pool. They just put liquid chlorine instead of letting it produce its own chlorine. There's little ways that they cheat around it. There's guys that go out there and they're there for a couple minutes and leave. Like, we call them splash and dashers. They just splash and dash. They're in and out. So you don't want to be like that. You want to do a really fantastic job. I don't lose customers. I get people recommending me. I have a great reputation around town. So that's the kind of business you want to run. I just don't have the patience and energy to grow and have employees, because I just don't like dealing with employees. They don't do really what you want them to do. They don't do it the way you want it done. They're going to call out sick. It's not their baby. It's not their business. They don't care. So, but anyway, that's it for now. Thank you. Take care.